My name is Holly Davis. I've been married to Michael. We'll celebrate 24 years in June. We have 3 daughters, Sadie, Shiloh, and Savannah. And I'm just a mom. I love being a mom and wife. You know, I only had one fear growing up, and that was the fear that I would have a brain hemorrhage. And I was terrified of it because I knew people when I was in high school who had had brain hemorrhages and who died instantly. And so that was my only fear. And so it's fitting that God showed me that the only thing that I feared before shouldn't be feared.
Holly's brain hemorrhage happened on the 25th of November 2006. That was Thanksgiving break, and so we'd gone to Arkansas for Thanksgiving, and we were driving back, and it was early, now on the 25th of November, early Saturday morning, probably around 3 a.m., something like that. We had just passed Knoxville, Tennessee, and I noticed, in fact, on the right-hand side of the road as I was traveling eastbound, a building in the distance that had a Christmas tree lit up on it. And so as everybody was kind of waking up, I pointed out that there's a Christmas tree on that building far away. Holly shortly thereafter started complaining of a headache. And she'd been a little bit nauseous earlier in the day, right around the time we left to start the trip.
I do remember being in the car and telling Michael, I don't feel well, can you pull over? I feel like I'm gonna be sick. And he pulled over, and I remember seeing the grass on the side of Interstate 40. That's the last thing I remember.
As it turns out, she had a very large AVM, about 10 centimeters, in her right frontal lobe. And what I didn't know, what she didn't know, is that that had ruptured and she was having a hemorrhage. An AVM is an arteriovenous malformation. It's kind of like an aneurysm, but an aneurysm is something that develops, whereas an AVM is something you're born with. It's its own thing, but it's almost like a cluster of vessels that develop almost like a varicose vein, on this case on the brain.
They had told me that they were so surprised that I had survived giving birth to 3 children, because the strain, the intracranial pressure increase is what can cause the ruptures.
I pulled into a pilot station there at Dandridge and asked some kid behind the counter if there was a hospital, and he said yes, there's actually a hospital here that is just a few miles away off this old highway. At this point, Holly was pinching at the air, and so it was dark in the car, but she was pinching, and so she was making this movement. I thought she was just trying to breathe or do something to help her not be as nauseous, and so I didn't think a lot about it, but it was a little bit unnerving. We were under a little awning there in the ER, and I opened the driver's side door, and Holly just pretty much kind of fell out, and she was really heavy, almost like this big sack of potatoes or something. She was just completely limp. And so it begins to sink into me as I'm rummaging through her purse, trying to find insurance cards, and she's clearly not responding. And at this point, they're hooking Holly up to machines, and they're handing me her clothes and bags and this sort of thing, and the doctor says, your wife has had a major brain hemorrhage. We don't know what exactly is going on, but they're handing me papers to sign. And they're saying, sign these papers so we can put her on a helicopter. The nurse will get you directions to the University of Tennessee Medical Center back in Knoxville. He goes, it'll take about 45 minutes to get there. And he goes, we don't know if your wife will be alive. He said, but we're gonna fly her there now. And the building we had seen earlier that night, where in the distance there was a Christmas tree on top. That was the University of Tennessee Medical Center, and that's where we wound up that morning.
I can remember waking up or being in the hospital. I think it was at Health South Rehab, and being so confused why I couldn't remember the day before. And it was like everything except what's happening right now was just black. And from that time, I have had 16 embolization procedures, and then the final resection, craniotomy surgery. And during that time, I had to relearn everything, how to walk and talk and swallow. You know, the verse that God gave to me through that journey is Psalm 118:17 that says, I will not die, but I will live and tell what God has done for me. And so I take that as a mandate. And when I know I'm meeting someone for the first time, I just ask God to help me share my story. And it happens time after time. And I've come to just have peace with it and recognize this is how He wanted to use me. And so I'm going to go with it. And recently I have had bad headaches, and they said that it was because of the tension built up in my brain from all of the surgeries, and that likely I'm going to have headaches for the rest of my life, potentially. And part of me thinks, I can't believe this is happening to me. But then another more mature part of me says, why not? So what if He wants me to suffer like this for Him? I am more mature spiritually now because I've had to walk the hard road. And God strengthens us through trials. And I think that I am stronger physically, emotionally, spiritually, because I've gone through that trial. In fact, for a little time after my surgery, I think I mourned the loss of the AVM, because it's like that was how I identified myself. This is Holly, the girl with the AVM. I don't have it anymore, so what now? And so I'm thankful for opportunities like this to share. Even though I don't have the AVM anymore, God is still using it.